Hi, everybody. Tammy here again, and I wanted to talk about one of my favorite subjects, and that's growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. So, we're going to talk about a brief overview, and then we're going to talk about what do we do with that. So, growth mindset versus fixed mindset. So, let's start with a brief overview. I know this is a poster you can find online, and I'm going to go over it really fast, but you can look it up online and dig into it a little bit more. But we got fixed mindset, and I'm going to click on this and get a little bit farther in here so we can see this. Fixed mindset, where intelligence is static, versus growth mindset, where intelligence can be developed. So a fixed mindset, they just want to look smart, so they want to avoid any kind of scenario that would not make them look smart. So when they have challenges, they avoid them. Where growth mindset, when they have challenges, they embrace them because this, oh boy, I get to learn something new. Fixed mindset, when they face obstacles, they give up so easily. Where the growth mindset, where they persist in the face of those setbacks or any obstacles, they're going to keep going and they're going to keep try even harder. And then we've got on the fixed mindset, when for effort, they see effort as fruitless. They're not going to do it. It doesn't matter whatever I do, I'm not going to get this. Where growth mindset sees effort as a path to mastery. I know if I work hard, I'm going to get this. Fixed mindset, when they face criticism, they ignore it. They see it as negative. They don't want to be looked at as feeling stupid. They think it feels stupid if they don't get something. Where growth mindset, they learn from criticism. They say, okay, how can I do this better? Fixed mindset looks at the success of others as a threat. So they want to kind of stay away from those kinds of relationships and scenarios. Where growth mindset, they see it as inspirational when somebody else succeeds. And they want to say, okay, show me how to do that. I want to do that too. So two different mindsets that we're talking about here. We definitely want growth mindset for our own students. Some more graphics that if you want to take a look at these, you can pause the video. I'm going to move myself out of the way. Um, the one on the left just talks about, again, that comparison of the two, where fixed mindset believes that's just the way they are. They're not going to be, they're never going to be smart. They think of themselves as dumb. They're never going to be smart. So why put in the effort? Where we have got to get our kids over to that growth mindset where they want to learn something and they know that the brain is like a muscle. Our athletes do it all the time. They work out, they work hard, and then they get better and better. But when the math classroom or English or whatever in science, and something gets hard and they give up so easily, and that's called grit. We want them to have grit. We want them to put in the effort and know that more effort is going to actually pay off in the end. And then I like this little chart on the right where it's coaching a growth mindset. How do we develop that in the classroom, where you have questions to develop a growth mindset on the left and you have feedback on the right? You're not telling them, oh, you're perfect. You're not telling them that they're right if they're not right. You respond to them in ways that are more constructive and steer them towards more effort and trying again, where failure is accepted and it's embraced because that's how we're going to learn. And speaking of failure, I love this quote from Sir Ken Robinson. You've probably seen him on a TED Talk where he mentions this quote, and I just love this quote. It stuck out to me, and I went and found it. I have a poster. If you're not prepared to be wrong, you'll never come up with anything original. Think about if anybody that invented anything in our history, if they had never tried something, of course they failed. That's how they learned. That's how they came up with their invention. Is they had a lot of failures ahead of time. So if our kids are so afraid of failure and they don't want to try, then that's what we need to be working on. We need to develop that grit in the classroom. All right, this is a, a picture from many, many years ago. I went to an Eric Jensen conference, and it was on brain-based learning. And I just love this. This was a little breakout session where we went to UTSA, and I was holding an actual human brain. Um, Sorry about that. I'm going to get out of the shadows here. Um, I was holding an actual human brain, and I was not grossed out at all. I actually was so fascinated with how the brain worked. And we talked about great strategies in the classroom to develop the brain. But I just love this thought that that the brain is always growing, and that's like the key part to great growth mindset, is that our brain, even now, even us as adults, our brains are always growing unless we don't use it. If we don't use it, we're going to lose it. So if we have that concept that the brain is always growing and we teach that to our kids, then that's what we should be trying to address in the classroom, is opportunities for our students' brains to grow and make connections. Now, knowing that the brain's always growing and knowing our students have different backgrounds, we know there's often inequity in the life experiences of our own students, and that affects brain growth. So we think some students are just smarter than other students, and sometimes we have this just this perception of different students and different kids that they're just never going to get it, but it's not true. It has a lot to do with life experiences, most of the time, I would say. So we've got to try to bring some equity to all of our students, the ones that didn't have those enriching backgrounds versus the ones that did. We need to try to level that playing field. And I think about when I was raising my kids with my husband, and when they were toddlers, and if you've been raising children, you may have had something similar in these experiences. But I remember when we're walking them around, or we go to the zoo, or we go to these different places, or even outside, and we're looking outside and we think, it's just the way we ask things, right? It's like, ooh, what is that? What do you think that is? What sound does that make? Oh, that's so cool. And it was the way that we said it. It was bringing wonder to the conversation. It was bringing amazement to the learning, and learning something new was so cool, and we were building it up. Oh, that is so cool to learn something new and learning something like that. Well, a lot of our kids did not have that experience of those enriching um, experiences with their parents. Sometimes it just doesn't always work out that way. So it's our job as educators to bring that equity to the classroom, and bring those enriching experiences into the classroom so those brains get the chance to grow. So what can we do as educators to bring equity to brain growth? And then where is the wonder? I wonder, where is the wonder in our classrooms today? I mean, that's what we did as parents, and really instilling that love for learning something new, and that appreciation for just learning. Where's the wonder in our classrooms today? So it's just something to think about. So this should be front of mind when designing the learning experiences as educators. And I just brought up a couple of graphics that I think are just fascinating to me. So these, the one on the left is just a kind of a demonstration of dendrites. So you may have heard of the book, the worksheets don't grow dendrites. So dendrites are what comes out of the cells. You have your cells, and then you have the axons, which are the arms that come out of the cells, and then the dendrites are the little branches that come out of the axons. And then they are making connections, and you see all the firing. Those are the synapses. And so the dendrites are making those connections, and that's what we want to see in the classroom. And you see on the right, I love that. You see that cell on the right that's trying to connect to the cell on the left. You see the axon, that arm that's coming out, and the dendrite branches coming out and really trying to connect to that other cell. If you can picture that, and our teachers can picture that, to accomplish that in the classroom and to provide those experiences in the classroom for those dendrites to grow, I just love these visuals. So when you go into a classroom, that's what you want to see. You want to see those experiences. All right, I want to end with a video from Joe Bowler. So I'm going to go over here real quick and hit play. Let's watch this, and we'll come back to it in a second.
Researchers have studied people who've reached a very high level of achievement to see how they got there. And they found that nobody was born with a special brain, but they engaged in a very particular kind of practice. And the researchers described it like this. They said that the people who achieved the most were those who were always pushing at the edge of their understanding, making mistakes, correcting them, making more mistakes. They weren't getting work correct all the time, they were always struggling. They set high targets for themselves, and if they became stuck, they tried a different approach so that they could keep going. Researchers also found that there really are no limits to what people can do. When people don't go on to high achievement, it's usually because they give up, not because they've hit actual roadblocks that they can't get past. So always remember that when you're struggling, even if that can feel really hard, that's the very best time for your brain. And keep going. Never give up on maths. Always remember you can learn anything.
Okay, so that doesn't just apply to maths. Remember, she's British, so apologize for the math. It doesn't just apply to math, it applies to everything that they're learning. I often see students that just give up so easily, and we need to develop that grit in our students. And I love what she says about when you get to that point of struggle, that's where the magic happens. And that's often where our students give up. We've got to teach them that once you get to that struggle, then that's where you really are beginning to learn and grow. And we want to teach them that value of growing. So a lot of that has to do, like what she was saying, is failing. They just fail, and that's okay. And they're learning as they go. And I want to just mention real quick that that applies to our teachers too. Let them fail. Let them try different things, and they're going to learn along the way. That's how we all learn. So that the same thing we want for our students and teachers and all of us as we're learning and growing and learning from our mistakes. And it's okay to fail as long as we're learning. So thank you for bearing with me in one of my passions.